We already know LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier is going to play in the Texas Bowl, but who's he going to throw it to? Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Gametime, and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. Appreciate y'all making it your first listen today and every day. We've got to catch you up on the opt-outs for LSU, looking at who is actually going to play in this Texas Bowl. Plus, there's a team out in West Texas in the Big 12 that's making a whole lot of noise when it comes to the portal. But is it fool's gold for Texas Tech? And is Baylor actually in a better spot? Plus, Steve Sarkisian is whining about yet another thing, but I agree with him. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. We are now just a week and a half away from the Texas Bowl, LSU, Baylor. The big news coming out of LSU personnel-wise last week was that Garrett Nussmeier is going to stay another year, and so he's going to play in this game. And so we get the quarterback matchup, Nussmeier, Robertson, two of the most overlooked guys in the business, going at it on New Year's Eve day at NRG Stadium. I can't wait for it. I can't wait. But with a team like LSU that, has plenty of guys going to the portal every year and, has a good problem of having NFL talent on their roster, there are plenty of opt-outs. Now, Baylor's been in a pretty good spot with this. As of right now, they don't have any opt-outs, like true opt-outs. They have some guys that have gone into the portal, but nobody has said, hey, I'm not playing in this game. In fact, Matt Jones talked about it during this week when he had media availability, the Baylor linebacker, and said, nope, we don't do that. He said, me and Sawyer, West Texas guys, we live and breathe football, man. Opting out is not an option. It definitely is an option at LSU. In fact, they're feeling the heavy hand of the opt-out going into this game, and it might be an advantage for Baylor. Let's take a look at who is not playing in this game for the Tigers. First, we'll have a probable and a yes, they are playing in this game because Braden Swinson, the stud defensive end for LSU, I mean, this kid's a monster. He is entering the NFL draft, but as of right now, he is playing. He told them he is going to play in the Texas Bowl one last game in that purple, gold, and white of LSU. So he is playing. Kyron Lacey, their second leading receiver, starting receiver for them, just announced on Thursday that he's going into the NFL draft, has not said anything about playing in the bowl game. So that's a maybe. But outside of that, there's a lot of no's in terms of that RSVP. How about your left tackle and your right tackle opting out of this game? Will Campbell, arguably the best tackle prospect in the draft. It's between him and Kelvin Banks for UT. He's not playing, and his opposite side of the line, I guess, or right tackle, Emory Jones Jr., he's also not playing in this game. So it's great to have Garrett Nussmeier back, but who's protecting his behind? I mean, this is a Baylor pass rush that is not great by any means, but it did have its moments earlier in the year where you have a guy like Steve Linton who can really get after the passer. He went up against a lackluster Colorado offensive line, had himself a big day. I wouldn't call LSU's offensive line lackluster, not when they have their starters in there, but when they've got two replacement tackles. Maybe it's time to bring the house a little bit, Dave. Maybe it's time to really get after the passer. So, both of their starting tackles have opted out for the NFL draft. And the last one that's opted out for the draft is Mason Taylor, their starting tight end. You would say, that sounds a lot like Jason Taylor. It is his spawn. It is Jason Taylor's son. He's going to the NFL draft as well. That's one of their leading receivers as well, not just their starting tight end. In fact, both he and his backup tight end, Kamorian Pimpton, are not playing in this game. Pimpton's in the portal. And so LSU has one scholarship tight end for this game. They're saying we're going to have to get creative. And on top of that, when you add CJ Daniels to the portal list, so obviously not playing in this game, assuming that Kyron Lacey will not as well after his NFL draft announcement, that is 3 of your top 4 receivers for LSU not playing in this game. So yeah, great. You've got Garrett Nussmeier back. Let's hope he can stay on his feet. First off, let's hope someone can block for him so he's got time to throw. And then if he does have time to throw, he's throwing to guys he hasn't really thrown to this year. not guys he's very familiar with. We're going down the depth chart here. But Baylor's strength obviously is not the defensive side. Again, they've played better the last few games, but certainly I wouldn't call them a stout defensive team. Where they are making their money and buttering their bread is on the offensive side. And especially with that aerial attack that Sawyer Robertson is orchestrating, the maestro of this Jake Spavital offense. Well, then it's probably not good news for LSU fans that their starting 3 free safeties on the roster are all not playing in this game. They have all entered the transfer portal, Sage Ryan being the starter of that group. 3 free safeties gone. That's a big hit in the defensive backfield when you're facing a quarterback like Sawyer Robertson and a receiving core like the one the Bears have. It just makes me all that more excited for this game, and also really thankful that Baylor's not having anybody really opt out of this game. Because by one end, you could say, well, that's because they don't have any pro prospects this year. That's kind of true. It's tough to argue with that. But certainly they've had guys who have really produced at the college level this year who aren't seen as pro prospects, so they are going to play in this game. Guys like Ashton Hawkins, for example, or Steve Litton, we talked about on the defensive end. But also, it means they haven't had starters go into the portal like LSU has. Again, the only one who got real starting time for the Bears that's in the portal is Alvin Abicelli, who is committed to Houston on the offensive line. Other than that, I mean, that's it. And he was getting, he was a rotational piece by the end of this season. So it's not like it is a huge miss for Baylor to not have Abicelli in this game. But they will, of course, have to put a ton of attention on Braden Swinson. I mean, that guy is a monster. So LSU shorthanded in this game. And honestly, going down through this list as a Baylor fan, it makes me feel better about this matchup. The way Baylor's been playing the last couple of weeks, I'll take them against almost anyone. And I'm glad that they're going to strap it up against a real, strong SEC West opponent in LSU, a team that was ranked 10 out of the 12 weeks this year. And I'm glad that Nussmeier is playing. I like that quarterback matchup. I don't want them to be completely depleted, but they're missing a lot of starters here at important positions: tackle, wide receiver, safety. Some of their guys on the defensive line as well. Deshaun Womack, who is technically Swinson's backup, more of a rotational guy. He is not going to be in there either. But 3 of their top 4 receivers out. And now they're bringing in a ton of receiver talent in the portal, but that's not going to help them for this game. So right now, it's LSU, the team that is very shorthanded going into this matchup against Baylor. And I, for one, cannot wait. It's going to be a ton of fun on New Year's Eve afternoon, but this is something that's going to change by the day, by the hour. What other LSU guys are going to the draft? Probably not many more entering the portal at this point, but how many are going to the draft? It's something that Baylor's going to have to look at too. But again, I really don't expect any surprising opt-outs of this game. I know they've got Carl Williams practicing, and they were hoping to get him back for this game after undergoing meniscus surgery. It seems pretty quick for him to be back at practice without a brace, which it was reported, without a brace or anything like that. So there's still, an opportunity for him to not be exactly healed up yet and opts out of the game, or they just rule him out of the game. But other than that, Baylor does not have opt-outs here. They're not shorthanded really at any position. The only thing I would be scared of is if something happens to Sawyer Robertson, because your backup quarterback is in the portal and you would have to go to Nate Bennett. And even if Walker White commits by then, he will not be allowed to play, unfortunately, for the Bears. But LSU, the shorthanded team in this Texas Bowl. Texas Tech, by the way, is really cooking in the transfer portal. I'm sure you've heard all about it if you're on social media. Baylor fans, do not fret. You're in just as good a place, actually a better place than Texas Tech. We'll tell you why coming up on Locked On Baylor. But first, this episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. It's my favorite sponsor of the show. I'm just kidding. I love all our sponsors. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or you paying for twice? It did for me, big time. I had a few subscriptions. I didn't realize I was paying double for a couple, including Premiere, which I use all the time. But that's an expensive subscription. So Rocket Money found that out for me and was able to strip it down and help me stay in my budget. Okay. It's a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending, which has been big for me, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users that have saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions and saved you up to $740 a year. For me, one of that best features is that subscription tracker. That was a huge, huge help for me. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime, which is also great at saving me money when I'm going to buy tickets, because I go in there and I toggle the all-in pricing tool, which means that price I see is the price I'm going to pay. I know you guys have been through this before, where you go to one of these other ticketing websites and you see, oh, that's a great price. And then it shows you the actual price and it's like double or triple, and it's like a real pain in the butt. Gametime does not do that with that all-in pricing tool. Plus, you get to see the view from your seats before you hit purchase, all backed by the lowest price guarantee. Your Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Portal season is mostly fun for everyone. There are those few teams that lose a lot and don't bring anything in. We, been there, seen that. But it's been especially a fun time for the folks out in West Texas. Texas Tech is cleaning up in the transfer portal right now, like to the tune of the number one portal class in all of college football. In fact, On3 does this strength index, and it's just a number to show how good your portal ranking is, your portal class. Theirs leads the nation at 73. Ole Miss is second in the nation at only 51. Tech is rolling right now. That Matador Club, whatever, they're throwing out bags. They've got edits of Joey McGuire blowing up hospitals on like Dark Knight. It's from the main account, by the way. It's been just nothing but good times and happy sand out there in beautiful Lubbock, Texas. To the point where I have had some Baylor fans reach out to me, and even some fans of other Big 12 teams being like, oh man, this means Tech is like really going to be a player next year. Like they could be a dark horse for the Big 12 championship. And I said, yeah, it's a year that starts with 2. Therefore, Tech will get some preseason hype to be a Big 12 dark horse. And Joey McGuire's their coach. So, of course, there will be preseason hype for them to be a Big 12 dark horse. I've fallen into this trap before. I really liked their team in 23. I kept saying, man, I really think this team is going to compete. I liked their team last year, this past year in 24. I didn't necessarily call them a dark horse, but it always seems to revert back to the mean, revert back to 8-4 as the ceiling. And there's nothing wrong with that. 8-4 is a good year. Baylor's coming off an 8-4 year. Feeling pretty good about ourselves, right? But also I've had Baylor fans asking me like, man, I wish we could get a portal class like Tech. I said, do we? Do we wish that? Because like, of course you would want that kind of talent that Tech's bringing in, right? The running back from from USC, the big monstrous kid they brought in from Carolina. Like, don't get me wrong, they're doing really well in the portal, and they needed to. They lost some talent this year. They also lost their highest rated recruit ever. But if I'm Baylor, I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need that. Baylor's down at 24th best recruiting class in the transfer portal. And I think the Bears have done a pretty good job, because there's two ways to look at this. I would say Tech underachieved to some degree this year, with starting out at 5-1, and they went out and bought a ton of guys in the portal. That's college football, man. They're bringing in a ton of talent. But for Baylor, they bring in less guys, maybe not as heralded guys, but they're plugging in some positional holes that they have. Because you know why? They were pretty damn good this year. In fact, these two teams laced them up and played a game against each other. And Baylor won going away, laughing at them out the door of their own barn, 59-35. And it wasn't even that close. So would you rather have a bit of an underwhelming regular season, which kind of sputters in the middle there, and have a great portal class, or have a really great end to your season, one that you felt you could have done even better at, and have a solid portal class that is fixing your holes for next year? I think I know which one I would go for. So yeah, Tech is by the numbers, numero uno in the nation in terms of the talent they're bringing in the portal. But if you want to ask me what the top two best portal teams, best portal situations in the Big 12 have been since it opened on December 8th, I would honestly tell you it's Tech and it's Baylor. You're not going to see Baylor up at the top of the list, but they're adding plug-and-play starters like they did last year, because people were underwhelmed by Baylor's recruiting class last year out of the portal. And I said, yeah, it's not the most high-end talent guys that money could buy, but what they're bringing in here are guys that can play right away and can slot in as starters. So guys like Keaton Thomas, JUCO guy. That's where Baylor's scraping the bottom of the barrel now. Yeah, he was one of the best linebackers in the Big 12 this year. Year one, starter, day one. Ashton Hawkins, they got to go get their guys from Texas State. Yep, one of the best playmakers on the team, second leading receiver, played right away. Linus Noel, Texas Southern. Midway through the year, he's one of their best defensive players at nose tackle. Sidney Fugar didn't get a sniff of the field at South Carolina. Yep. And was arguably their best tackle by the end of the year. Like that's what Baylor's just going for right now. Kobe Prentice, Cole Wilson, Devin Turner, Phoenix Jackson. They're not names that you were going to see at the top of the portal rankings, but what they are guys that can come in and play right away and have been productive in their NCAA career. So yeah, it's great for Tech. It's great for Tech what they're doing and all the guys they're bringing in and the talent that they've got coming to West Texas. Joey McGuire can recruit the heck out of a football team, man. But it's like Baylor had a better team this year. They're not losing as much, and they're bringing in plug-and-play starters. Tech did not have as good a year as Baylor did. We saw them play against each other. No matter what those Tech fans tell you, trust me, we saw them play against each other. Baylor won in a laugher. They lose some talent there, significant amount of talent, and they're going to bring in a ton. We'll see how that works out. But basically what it comes down to is they have the prospects of some damn good talent coming to Lubbock. Baylor has some damn good talent already in Waco, and they're bringing in some more, and there's stability there. And so therefore, if I had to pick, it would be a pretty sexy pick to take Tech's recruiting class in this portal. But if we're looking at the whole situation, I like Baylor's better, to be totally honest with you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. We roll on with Locked On Baylor. We're going to hear from Coach Steve Sarkisian on what he had to say about a potentially landmark decision by the NCAA and why I'm kind of inclined to agree with him. That is next on Locked On Baylor. This episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. We are on the eve of it right now as you're listening to this, folks. With the newly expanded 12-team format, it is guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all that hard-hitting action and the high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the CFP begins December 21st. That's Saturday. That's tomorrow as this is premiering. Starting with the College Football Playoff Kickoff Show presented by AT&T at 10 a.m. Central. Leading into our first matchup, that's our Ponies of SMU battling the Penn State Nittany Lions in State College at 11. Then Clemson going to look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a big-time Texas high school football quarterback showdown at 3 p.m. Central. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate. It's live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Boy, we have got some fun college football viewing days. In fact, tomorrow, Saturday, is supposed to be the best college football viewing day of the entire year. I will be celebrating by driving 6 or 7 hours and then going to watch minor league hockey because that's what I like to do too. But I will be, of course, keeping track of those games. One of the teams playing on Saturday is the Texas Longhorns, coached by Steve Sarkisian. Now, Sark was asked yesterday about this new ruling from the NCAA that's going to allow JUCO transfers to have another year of eligibility. This is becoming another one of these landmark cases, I guess you could call them, in this new NIL transfer portal era. Diego Pavia is the face of this. Of course, you know him as the Vanderbilt quarterback, beat Alabama and cussed right on live TV. It was awesome. Also had a pretty good career at New Mexico State as well. He's a former JUCO guy. He comes in, and now he's been granted an extra year of eligibility. And on the surface, seems great. But when asked about this, Steve Sarkisian had a different tune. He said, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good precedent. He said, Sark went to junior college as well before playing at BYU. And he said, when you go to JUCO, you make that decision to go to JUCO. You make that decision that comes with it. And you know that it shortens your career at the Division I level, but it makes you a better player at the Division I level. And now we're going to get 28, 29-year-olds out here playing college football. And honestly, I couldn't agree more with Sark. With a lot of these player empowerment arguments that come up through the portal era and the NIL era, I feel like coaches have looked out of touch. You know, coaches that don't want players making money, saying how tough the job is. I feel some sympathy for that. It is a different job than what you signed up for even a year or two ago. But it's also like, again, these head coaches. I mean, Sark is the highest paid employee in the state of Texas, him and Elko. Like they make millions and millions and millions of dollars and their players are making nothing. And with this argument, though, I understand this. Because we're phasing out the COVID years, and now we're just going to add another year to JUCO, and I think it is going to diminish the JUCO experience a little bit. Not that it's like, oh crap, I got to go to JUCO or anything, but it's like you go to junior college because you need to hone your skills. You need to hone your craft. You need to prove to people that you could play at that next level. You do it for the coaching that you're going to get, for the reps that you're going to get. And like, that's a decision you make. Now, if you were going from Texas to, I don't know, Bowling Green and then Auburn, going Power 4, Group of 5, back to Power 4, like you should retain your eligibility there. But when you make that decision to go down to a lower level to try and enhance your game, like that's part of what comes with this. And if we're not doing that, it's just taking away from junior college football, right? Because then if you don't lose any eligibility, like what's to stop kids from just bouncing around to junior colleges until they get that chance to play in the SEC? It's like, it does take away from it a little bit, and that could happen. And then you would get 28-year-old guys coming in and playing college football. Do I see the irony in a guy who played at BYU not wanting old guys playing college football? Yeah, I do. I see that quite a bit. But I think he ended his quote by saying it's then like, what are we doing here? And I get that. I mean, BYU, it's a different thing, but if you're going to have a bunch of 28-year-olds on your team, then it's not college football anymore. When the guys are getting paid, yeah, that's still college football. But this would just take away from kind of the real foundation of this. The foundation of college football was not just amateur athlete status, right? Like many of the old heads will want you to believe, and that's why NIL's ruining this sport. No, the foundation of this is players playing football that are college age. You get them every once in a while, those old minor league baseball players or guys coming back on the GI Bill. I don't know how often that happens in major college football anymore, but you do see it. And like that makes some sense, but it just takes away from it all when you're bouncing around the junior colleges to end up playing college football at 28, 29 years old. So I actually, like, it sounds whiny, but I actually do agree with this from Sark. Like there are some lines that we need to draw. We've made the portal the Wild West. We're giving out COVID years. I think this is the last year of it, but we're giving out medical red shirts more than we ever have before. We're allowing you to play 4 games before you redshirt, which I think is a fine ruling. But like at some point you got to draw the line, and the NCAA has not drawn the line yet. They're saying, yes, Diego Pavia, you played a year at junior college. You can play an extra year of Division I. And they're doing that because Pavia is arguing that he's lost out on a year of NIL because he played at junior college and not Division I, which is where you make NIL money. To that, I would say the same point to Sark's argument of you get what you sign up for. That's a decision you make. If you're in it for the NIL, like as a quarterback, you can rot on the bench somewhere, be a third string guy and make some money and never enhance your game. Or you can go to junior college where you know you're going to be the guy, you're going to get good coaching, and you are going to get the reps and the tape that you need to show to Power 4 teams, and you accept those consequences of you're not going to make money for a year. And that's life. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about LSU being shorthanded in this game and which transfer portal route you would rather take, Baylor's or Texas Tech's. Please let me know down in the comments below or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping every episode. Daily, post-game, emergency pods, all of that you will get by hitting that notification button, and liking and subscribing will help you with that too, because it'll show YouTube that you like this channel, and it helps me out a ton. Thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. Enjoy this awesome football weekend, and we'll talk to you on the other side of it on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.